Hello and welcome to this live broadcast from the Ottawa Business Journal. I'm Michael Curran. Today's theme is tips to transform your post-pandemic office. After 18 months, it's fair to say that employers and a lot of employees are very keen to get back to the office. And of course, that can be done much more safely now that the vast majority of Canadians and Ottawans are fully vaccinated. Now, some people might argue that the heads down type work can be done in a work from home setting. But what about company culture? What about the connection that happens between colleagues? And what about collaboration and innovation that is most certainly suffering when we're all working from home? Today's guest will argue the office is not dead. Far from it. Offices are still key to successful companies. But the office should change. In fact, maybe some of these changes started happening before the pandemic happened. So if you're a business owner or a manager who is wondering, how do I transform my office post-pandemic? And what does this post-pandemic office look like? Today is for you. So let's get things rolling by introducing our main speaker today. Please welcome the president and a partner at Burovision Ottawa. Here is Gillian Oxley Harper. Welcome, Gillian.
Hi, Michael. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. As you know, Gillian, this is a very popular subject, and I think it's a topic that a lot of companies are wrestling with. So I'm very happy to have you here, given all your experience. And just before we get into all of the great learnings from today, I want you to give you an opportunity to talk about yourself for a little bit. You've been in this business for more than 20 years, I understand.
I have. My entire career has actually been spent in the contract office furniture industry, mainly on the manufacturer's level, and most recently as a partner and president here in Burovision Ottawa. Most of my professional life has been spent working with colleagues and industry partners to really create compelling and effective workplaces and workspaces for customers. And it really became a passion early on. As a junior, this strange little industry had me hooked, and I see the effect and still see the effect of listening to a customer and really taking what they share with you and using it to create a solution to transform their work environment. And to me, that's exciting, and it really fulfills a creative need within me. So truly a passionate career for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can sense it from you. So we've already brought up the company Burovision, that's your company, a couple times, but give us kind of the elevator pitch, so to speak, on Burovision.
Oh boy, have you got a couple of hours? I'm kidding. No, Burovision is a single source provider. So that's really a one-stop shop. And what that means is that we work with interior modular construction and contract furnishings to create offices and workplace where people want to work, where employees want to be.
And you have a beautiful office just off the Spark Street Mall. I was fortunate to visit it just a few weeks ago, Gillian. But tell us about the purpose of the Burovision office itself.
Well, when I think about our office here on Spark Street, it really is the hub of our business. It's so much more than a showroom or even an office. It's where our team gathers to create and collaborate, where we brainstorm and throw things at the wall, and where we innovate on behalf of our customers. And that's such a huge part of our daily work life and our daily inspiration, working with a customer and then taking this almost lab approach to examine their unique situation and then build to solve for it.
That's interesting. You just brought up customers. So there might be people watching today that are wondering, what is a typical customer for a Burovision? Is it a small company? Is it a giant company? Give us a sense.
Well, our typical customers range in size. We work with small companies, medium. We work with multinationals. We work with companies that have offices across Canada or North America. They come from different market sectors, including professional services, finance and insurance, higher education, and as well as the public sector. But the common denominator, if you will, is that our customers are progressive. And when I say progressive, what it really boils down to is that they all want to evolve their workspaces to support both their business drivers and their employees in all types of work, as well as have it serve as a foundation for their culture.
Yeah, I like that point. And Gillian, of course, Burovision has a really important supplier relationship, in fact, with one of the world's leaders in office design and furniture. I'm referring to Knoll. So tell us about Burovision's connection with Knoll.
So to be able to do what we do, we have to have these really strong supplier partnerships, and we need rock solid partners like Knoll. And for over 80 years, Knoll has been an absolute front runner in the world of office furniture. Florence and Hans Knoll, founders of the company, completely reconsidered the office when they created the office planning division over 50 years ago. And what before that office planning division, you would have a bunch of architects in a room planning a space, and the furniture and how it was placed or who was using it was never even considered. So this whole office planning unit really created a deep design legacy about working in corporate spaces. I mean, Knoll was so far ahead of the game back then, and they continue to be a thought leader in the evolution of the workplace.
It really was one of the early innovators in this workplace innovation side. And, Jillian, one of the advantages of working with Knoll is you guys get access to all this thought leadership when it comes to effective and efficient workplaces. And Knoll, during the pandemic, has conducted hundreds and hundreds of interviews with business leaders from across North America. And we're very fortunate to have one of their experts for North America. Joining us from outside Philadelphia, we are happy to have Knoll's Senior Director of Workplace Strategy, Kimberly Smith. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you for having me, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here.
Listen, I think this topic is so fascinating, so integral to how companies work. Knoll, of course, has all sorts of global expertise, Kimberly, in terms of where people are going to work in the future. You've been doing some research. Tell us about some of the key findings in that research.
We've actually been having so many conversations about the expectation of return to office first, right? As well as the future of work. And our research suggests that we are on the brink of transformative change. Now is really the time for organizations to embrace this opportunity to reimagine and reinvent the way that they do work and business. So the Thriving Workplace, which is a body of work, something that we created, crafting a new narrative, is really this opportunity to build a new and more humanistic environment that's really going to power what we call a workplace ecosystem. And that's, delivering a cultural hub that builds culture and community, something that we've been lacking during the pandemic, that truly embraces flexibility and gives people the latitude to really be inviting interactions in the workplace. And then offering this great variety of choice, because people have been able to work from anywhere, or the WFA, as we like to call it. And that work from anywhere is really making people look at the workplace in a brand new lens. And
I love your starting point. I'll just jump in quickly, Kimberly. I love your starting point too, because this really isn't about interiors or furniture or anything like that. It's much more fundamental what you're talking about here, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, I think the ecosystem is really that there's a cultural hub that might be considered office, right? But we're never going to have everyone in the same place at the same time on any given day any longer, since we've given people the freedom to work from anywhere. So now with this idea of, hybrid work, many of our customers are archetyping their employees into buckets or categories where they might be considered a resident that might be there 5 days a week, hybrid, which is somewhere in the middle, which they really need to define, or remote. So some people will never go to the office. So that'll be a really interesting shift to understand that the office is really going to truly be a destination or designed in a new way. Many companies are sort of looking at satellite locations. So maybe people don't want to go into a city where they have to use vertical transportation, right, to go up into a building that might be in the 25th floor in a crowded elevator. So they might be looking at a distributed geography model. So they may be looking at something like satellite offices, or even co-working offices, like we were talking about before. The co-working offices are really an opportunity to create culture and bring people together in new ways.
It's a somewhat complicated issue too, because as you said, it's almost like we're in new territory here in having to rethink of this. So, what would your advice be, Kimberly, in terms of a company that's thinking about this in a deep way, and it's, how are we going to determine what, as you said, employees fall into what bucket there?
Yeah. So what's going to be the real difference is that the expectation of a virtual participation is always going to be there. So what I mean by that is this: companies, what I would offer to advise companies is that they'll have to leverage technology to blend those audiences in a true phygital, part physical, part digital, right? With virtual participants as well as in-person participants, because we're going to have to collaborate in new ways. So this idea of togetherness is really not what it was before the pandemic. So that idea that people are always going to expect to dial in or be zoomed in or virtual platform in is going to be really important.
I think there still might be some people who are reluctant in now that we've shifted in large ways to work from home, especially in white collar type work. People might be hesitant, saying we could do this forever, but there's a danger in work from home
Oh, oh.
indefinitely, right? Kimberly, maybe you can tell us some of your thoughts on that.
So I think the biggest danger, truthfully, is the exit from the workplace and the disconnection to the organization. So when you're working in isolation, you don't have the office buzz, the sense of culture and community of the office. You don't have your best friend that you see every day and have a cup of coffee with. So we're missing that social aspect of work. And in the beginning of the pandemic, when we started asking people, what are some of the elements that you miss? It was always people. People miss people and their collaborative workspaces. But oftentimes that really connects us to the community and the organization. So, I mean, I'm sure that you've been reading articles about the instead of the Great Recession, we're saying the Great Resignation. So people are really exiting the workforce because you can work for anyone from behind the screen. And really the distinction is the culture of the organization and who you identify with and who you work with. So companies are really at a great impasse right now where they're really needing to get people back together in some sort of semblance of some period of time in a calendar year for them to really build that sense of community and keep employees engaged, because the employee experience is really important. Part of one of our studies, we did a case for the Thriving Workplace paper that supports this with data in a survey that we did, a hybrid work survey that we did. And it's estimated that 66% of the organizations that we surveyed are going to reduce their individual workspaces, and even greater, 137% expectation of increased unassigned workspace. So that really means that we don't expect people are going to be in the office every day, all the time with an individual workspace. People are looking to explore strategies of unassigned workspace where you would have more collaboration zones to support those phygital meetings we talked about.
I love that word, phygital. Kimberly, thanks for joining us. You've given us a lot to think about today. We appreciate all the research that Noel is doing on this. Thanks again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Once again, that was Kimberly Smith, Noel, Senior Director of Workplace Strategy. Jillian, I thought that was fantastic to get all this access to this research. But what's really cool about what's going to happen the remainder of our show today is that you're going to bring this down to earth for a lot of people and really help them visualize, what this means for their actual offices and how they can adapt. So we're going to start moving into our first example, and this involves reception space. And this is the first of 3 office transformations we're going to take a look at with you. Jillian, the first thing that most people experience, of course, when they come to an office is the reception area. And you have some specific ideas about how post-pandemic a reception might evolve. Talk to us about your vision for transforming the reception area.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that we're definitely returning to our offices in some way, shape, or form, most likely some form of hybrid. So the whole goal here really today is to float some ideas about, how you can look at that floor plate so that it will support the work in multiple forms and really create that thriving workplace and give back employees those things they were missing, the culture, the collaboration, and so on. So when you think about a reception area in a post-pandemic workplace, and I have some visuals to share with the audience. Don't think about it being a desk where the courier drops things off or someone sits there and calls and says, so-and-so is here to see you. What you really want to do, and if we can pull up the first slide, is create a space that is multi-purpose. And when I guess to help people visualize, if you think for a minute about a hotel lobby, traditionally a hotel lobby had these, leather wingback chairs. You kind of wandered in and checked in, and that was really all it was kind of a waiting area before you checked in. And now hotels have multi-purpose lobbies. People work in them at hoteling stations, which I guess is where that term came from, as well as, they sit and collaborate on couches, they hold meetings. And then you also have the ability to turn it into, a hospitality venue at night. Maybe it's a cocktail location for guests and non-guests of the hotel. So it's really thinking outside that traditional conservative approach to, I have a desk with a receptionist and a phone and the courier and all the guests stop there. And you really create what we call a welcome or a guest zone. It's all about creating almost an office within an office. So in the first slide, you're walking in, and maybe I only come into the office once a week because I'm in full-blown hybrid mode. I'm working from home remotely 4 days a week. I'd like to grab a cup of coffee, sit down, review my notes before I meet with the team that I've come to see. I may be a guest and the person I'm here to see isn't quite ready for me. I can help myself to a coffee. I don't have to wander through the whole space. All those hospitality amenities are visible and accessible in that welcome zone. In the next slide, we show some more ideas where, again, in that visitor welcome zone, guest zone, you have very accessible adjacent meeting areas. For, small size meetings, you could have larger meeting spaces depending on the size of your company and how many people are being accommodated on a drop-in basis. This could also be a spot where two of us can just go in and have a quick meeting. It's all about thinking about using that space more effectively for different things at different times. And in the final slide, in our welcome zone, we show what I like to, and I love this part, we call them, they're actually privacy pods, but we're calling them Zoom rooms. And I'm sure most of our listeners, like I did during the full-blown work from home mode, where we were in back-to-back Zoom calls because all you did was exit and enter into another link to enter the next meeting. And, I think what we're seeing now as people slowly do return to the office is, I have a meeting here in the office with 4 people, and I realize that I've scheduled a Zoom call 5 minutes after I'm finished. So do I go and take it in my car, or as an office, do I have an accessible area that's private, that's soundproof? I can go in there with my laptop, I can take that Zoom call, and then I can depart the office and leave and go about my day. So really thinking about utilizing that space for much more than just couriers, package drop off, and a visitor coming in.
I like Jillian, when you use the hotel lobby analogy, because I really can visualize that. The old lobby was just like a couple chairs and you were waiting to check in at reception. But now, my goodness, it's working area, it's social area, it's a cocktail area, it's everything. So that's what you're saying to people, that too can be your reception without too big of changes. Very flexible space too when I see those photos. So Jillian, we're going to move on to what we're going to call a resident zone. And before I pitch this question at you, I'm just going to remind everyone, by the way, that's watching today, you can comment through social media, and we'll be looking in our last segment for some of your questions. So please, we'll be keeping an eye on that. So let's come back to our second example, Jillian, which is the resident zone. So we're moving past the reception area and into the office. And more specifically, Jillian, there are going to be some employees who want to work in the office all the time, or at least most of the time. So what is your vision for these people?
So there were people even during the pandemic that had to be at the office all the time. Maybe it was the nature of their work. There were security requirements. Maybe they didn't have a laptop. Maybe they just had the old-fashioned desktop computer. But there are people, and we're seeing it every day, that are going to be in the office every day. There's going to be teams of people that are going to be in the office every day. So creating spaces within the office for those people, and we are calling them resident zones, but almost treating them like a neighborhood. So it's in the office. People are coming in every day, they're working. And if we put up the first slide, you will see that here we have a number of workstations, different configurations. There's privacy panels between for that separation and so forth, but really division, vertical dividers. But you've really created a zone within the office, or sorry to repeat, but an office within an office for the people that are coming in every day to work. They have an assigned workstation. It's theirs. This is where they come in and do their work during the day. In the next slide, we show that they also have adjacency to meeting rooms, to areas to, if you need to take a quick call or you need to meet with members of your team, very accessible from the workstation area. And you'll also notice that in both cases, there's placement near a light source, near a natural light source. Just very important that the people that are in there all day, every day, get the opportunity to see that natural light and enjoy, the sunlight and that type of thing. And the third slide, we're showing you just creating small breakout areas. I've been heads down for 4 hours. I just need to go sit and have a cup of coffee so I can do that. Or I just want to pull again a couple of people over and brainstorm, ideate, throw some things at the wall, see what sticks. So we have lounge collaborative spaces within the resident neighborhood. And again, because these people are here all day, every day, and it's kind of their part of the office. In the next slide, what we've done is we've incorporated personal storage for each person, but also that bank of lockers acts as a divider from a different space in the office. So all of those things that we need to have when we're in the office are there, but it's in one particular area within the office.
I think that's really neat. Both how you're using those areas and just thinking about those people, right? These are the people that want to be in the office most of the time. So we're going to create a resident zone. I like that. It's clear in my head. So as we move into our third example, Jillian, we're gonna talk about a different type of employee. So this might be an employee who doesn't want to be in the office all the time. They do want access to the office. Maybe the reason they're coming to the office is because they've got a project or because they have a task where they need to collaborate with their colleagues. So let's talk about this. How would you deal with this group of people, Jillian?
So this is really what we're calling project or creative zones. I think, it goes without saying that collaboration is really key to the success of our business, but it was one of the facets that was most impacted during this full-time work from home that we went through. When you think about it, you can say, well, I can collaborate on a Zoom call, but a lot of collaboration is not planned. And it's casual. It's having a coffee and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, what do you think of this? And the minute we're all remote, you are now really at the mercy of the person you are trying to contact for a quick answer. You can't drop in. There's no casual conversation. So until your text or your email or your phone call is responded to, it's really been limited by that lack of access to people. And the key to creativity and innovation, those things that drive our business successes, are being limited by not being able to gather. So we need areas within this thriving workplace, and Noel has shown this, that they really support collaboration in all of its forms: building, ideating, gathering, and studying. And in the upcoming slides, we have some examples, not only of different, I will say, vignettes or layouts, but it really talks about a variety of spaces. It talks about furniture that allows gatherings of multiple sizes, breakouts, different meeting lengths from, a quick, hey, come and chat with me at this high table in the middle of the room, to a more reconfigurable and different area. In the next slide, we show assigned work areas within the creative zones and the project zones, because once you've started to build and ideate, sometimes you do need to break off and kind of study what you're doing. You want to come back and then re-meet. We've all done this reconvene after we've thought about it. But adjacent to these unassigned workspaces that I can, reserve or work at for the day that I'm in there. Again, we have that privacy pod, so I can take that call, I can do that Zoom meeting, and in the background is an office that features a work wall, but it doubles as a private meeting room when the person who's normally in there is not in for the day. So it's really about using a variety of furniture that's flexible and that will accommodate collaboration in all of its different modes. The final slide on the project zone really could be a training room. And, when we go back to Kimberly's term and talking about that phygital experience, you'll notice that in this room, we have different levels of seating so that the people at the back of the room and the people at the front of the room have an equal viewing experience on the screen. But if that happens to be a Zoom call, the people that are working at home that day actually get to see everybody in the room because of the layered seating. Small pieces, again, here that are easily reconfigurable. Small thing, but those yellow chairs can swivel, so I can turn around and speak to the person behind me. So it's not about getting rid of space. It's about rethinking how you use your space in the office to accommodate and support that hybrid mode. So sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's a couple of things that really strikes me, Jillian, when I see some of those images. One is that concept of flexibility, right? So what I saw there was a lot of furniture that's on wheels, and quite literally, maybe within minutes, could be reconfigured to do some other purpose. Is that a key aspect in this example?
In this project zone, absolutely. It's so that the users, you don't need facilities, you don't need moving people. It's really about being able to pull things together or move things apart, depending on where you are in the collaboration or the project process.
There's just a reminder to our audience, we're going to go to a Q&A. So if you've got a question, just use your social media platform that you're watching on. That might be YouTube or LinkedIn or so on and so forth. The other thing that struck me, by the way, Jillian, is there's a concept of I'll use the word equity, maybe in a different word that it's typically used. But what I mean by that is that is that someone working virtually should be able to experience things in a little bit of a consistent way with the person who's actually in the office. And that last image we showed was maybe an example of how to achieve that.
Absolutely. Kimberly said it extremely well. We're not going to prescribe, we're not going to dictate which technology a customer uses. We're going to support it. But it's really about, as Kimberly said, leveraging technology for that equality of experience for both in-office and out-of-office participants and employees.
In a way, when I think back to our conversation here, it's been so useful and both kind of thematic, starting with that reception and not thinking, as you indicated, of simply kind of a receptionist on a desk where, a courier drops off paper. It's so much more flexible. You can use it for hospitality reasons. Then when I thought of the residents, right, they need their own zone in the office. Maybe they need some of those lockers to store space. And my personal takeaway on that third point was just that whole flexibility, right, where we need to come in. And maybe I'll ask you this question as I'm just watching the Q&A here, Jillian. So I think one of the things that has really suffered is that concept of collaboration and innovation with people working from home. And, maybe evidence of that, whenever I see like a group of people, colleagues that want to tackle a big issue, like a serious issue that needs multiple hours of analysis, what's the first instinct? We need to get together. We can't do that on Zoom. We need to be in the office. Is that what you're finding as well?
It's very true. We've had several customers and different groups of folks into our showroom since we all came back to the office, and people are happy to be here. They're happy to be meeting face to face. It's amazing the ideas that just kind of pop out during these casual conversations, and we can work from anywhere, but the office is the hub, and it's absolutely necessary for company culture and for company community. But it's so important that we foster that in-office experience to leverage and capture the creativity and innovation and strategy and everything that's so vital to any company's success.
Just before we wrap up here, I want to pick up on that point too, because that's been an observation that whenever I've seen people come into an office since the pandemic started, they're really happy. They want to talk to each other. They have smiles on their faces. There's great energy. So, I mean, that alone demonstrates that there still is a role for that traditional office, correct?
Absolutely. And, we spoke about equality of experience, which, can be that phygital experience in a virtual meeting and an in-person meeting. But the other, I guess, pieces of the equity of experience that need to be considered are when someone is working from home all the time, maybe it's not so ergonomic. Maybe they're sitting at a kitchen table on a hard chair all day, definitely not conducive to productivity. Maybe it's a very small space and you have a husband and wife working in a one-bedroom condo, trying to, each accommodate each other's calls. And, the other equity of experience is when you're not in the office, at least part of the time, how do you onboard a new employee? Can you imagine being onboarded to a company virtually? It's very difficult. And it's team building and it's advancement. It's really about a hybrid work model will support all of those things. And that's why the office is so important as we move out of these pandemic closures and as more and more people are vaccinated and feeling comfortable about going back to the office.
We're going to start wrapping up here in a minute, but there is a question about, how does a project like this start? So what's the first step? This might be daunting for some people in the audience right now, but, what's your quick answer and how do you start a project like this?
Well, one of the great things about Knoll and their research is that as the exclusive Knoll partner, we have access to this research. We're delighted and really what we want to do with customers is partner with them. And as I said at the beginning, listen to them. So it's really connecting, letting us set a time to come and see what you're trying to do, having a conversation with us and moving forward. But before you do any of that, you really have to decide what your hybrid model is. And that's something that a company has to decide for itself. And once that decision is made, the easy part really is creating the workspace to support it.
Yeah, it's taking that first step. And we're going to share your contact information in just a minute. By the way, you gave me the idea that thriving workplace report from Knoll. That would be a great thing for people to reach out to Burovision and review that before contacting you.
Mhm.
Jillian, as we wrap up here, I want to give you an opportunity to share some final thoughts. Please go ahead.
I think, we've talked about workplace design. We've talked about, the need for collaboration. We've talked about getting people back to the office. And, it's kind of gone full circle. At the beginning of the pandemic, we had companies crowing from the rooftops, we can work from home forever. And it's been proven over the last 18 months that you can't. The thriving office is really about return to office, but it's much more about creating a landscape of choice. And I can't take credit for that. That's a Knoll term. And I think it just accurately describes what we need to do as employers and companies to make the workplace a more effective place for our employees to return to.
Well, listen, Jillian, you've been so generous with your time and generous in sharing all this expertise. We're going to bring up a contact slide. So again, I'm sure there's people out there going, that's the person I need to talk to. I need Jillian on our team to help figure this out. So how can people contact you? Just walk us through some of that information on screen.
We're at 300 Spark Street. So we welcome you to our showroom. We are open for business, and please feel free to shoot me an email at jillian@burovision.com. And my direct line is there along with my extension. So I look forward to hearing from anybody that we can have a conversation with about getting back to the office.
Awesome job, Jillian. And maybe just as we wrap up, we have been at OBJ and Burovision is going to be a partner. This presentation is all part of our Best Offices Ottawa. And this is a project that we started before the pandemic. We're seeing tremendous interest in this. And we're going to speak to you again in just a few weeks' time, by the way. And all of this is building up to a special report that we'll produce in the spring of 2022. Again, Burovision will be a partner with us on that. So Jillian, thank you very much for spending time. We're going to bid you adieu here and I'll wrap up the show. Good job.
Thank you.
Hope to talk to you real soon, Jillian. At
Appreciate
face-to-face too, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Face-to-face. All right. So thank you once again to Burovision and Knoll for presenting and sharing all of that expertise today. As we wrap up, I just want to give you a bit more information on these broadcasts we're doing. So if you're watching on YouTube, a reminder to follow OBJ on YouTube. Also, you can like this video, and there's a little bell icon. You can click that to get notifications when we're posting new videos or broadcasting live like today. And there's lots of content. Oh my goodness, go to the OBJ YouTube channel. There's over 1,000 videos on all sorts of topics, some of them more news, some of them more educational informed. So that's all the time we have for today. On behalf of all my colleagues at Ottawa Business Journal and our partners here, Burovision and Knoll, thanks for watching, and please stay connected and stay safe. Bye-bye.